Well, Dale, I understand that we're going to sit around and we're going to talk about estate planning.
Yes.
Right? Wills, things like that. Things that we can do to, help the church in the future. And one of the things I thought about was just really talking about the gifts that people have given us in the past.
Yeah. Of the 40 years I've been here as a member, we've received well over $1.4 million.
Yeah, it's amazing.
From estates.
Yeah.
Many of the people, as a for instance, we had one donor that she was a member here, grew up as a child, she loved this church, their family loved the church. She moved out west, and 40 years later.
Yeah, 40 years.
40 years later, she dies by herself, and she left $175,000 to our church.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. And it was funny because she didn't have a whole lot of family, but the family she had told me that this is one of the happiest times of her life. I think her father was the president of her sinus.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remembered that. Well, I was thinking about that, and the problem with wills, and estate planning and things like that, is people always think that's an old person's, problem, right?
Exactly.
And I was thinking about, and this really came to light for me because my father, it's been a year since he passed away, but he died without a will, right? And I know how much legal junk I got to jump through because all the fees and all that stuff, and how much easier it is. Like when Alatha Sherrard died with the will, they gave everything to the church.
Yes.
And how much easier that was when that happened. And I was thinking about everybody should have a will. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Everybody, young, old, whatever, because you want your wishes to be known. But one of the easiest ways to give to the church is that in your will and in your life insurance policy, you can have your beneficiaries be one of the church. Have the beneficiary be one of the church. You can do it as a percentage a lot of times. Like if you got 2 kids, they could get 45%. That's 90%, 10% going to the church. And that it doesn't sound like a lot. But over the years,
it really adds up.
It really adds up, yes. And it's an easy way too to plan for the future and plan for the church. One of the things I was thinking about, Dale, you've been with me since I've been here. You've seen all the difference happen in our finances and stuff. In the 10 years, it's been amazing how we're getting income now from some of our investments that it's not that we didn't have investments, we had savings accounts and stuff, but we've turned that into income that comes in quarterly. It helps us meet expenses. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, due to people donating money out of their will, and speaking about wills, which is really a significant part of this, many of the people of the parish pledge faithfully.
Mm-hmm.
They say, God is asking us to give out of gratitude, to give 10%,
mm-hmm.
Of whatever our disposable income is. But they don't think about that in terms of when life ends.
Yes, yeah.
And many people that I've talked to over the years have now realized that you really need to put 10%. If you believe that, if you've lived that through your whole life,
mm-hmm.
put 10% for the church, in your will.
I agree.
And then divide it up the rest to wherever you want it to go.
Right.
We are now receiving, in excess of $40,000 a year,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
of income due to estate planning.
Yes. Yeah, Ada Doris Hofsis and her estate planning.
And Debbie Marsteller.
Debbie Marsteller, yeah. I always wish, though, I would have been the cats for the... I think she gave 40% of her estate to the SPCA. She was wonderful with the church, too. But
she was.
But she thought about all those things that were dear to her. SPCA, all those different
Children's
charities,
hospital.
children's hospitals, yes. And all of us have gotten a lot of money because she thought about that.
Well, it's only through, in that particular case, okay, that we had enough money to put a new roof on the church.
Oh, amen. Yeah, exactly.
To make major repairs,
Yeah.
which would not have been possible
if it hadn't been for
without
Debbie.
that money at that time.
Yes. And Debbie knew that too. And Debbie, it was one of the ways that she loved this church so
She
much.
did.
And I remember you and I going over there toward the end of her life, and she was like, I trust you all that this church is going to be what it needs to be for other people and for the choir and all that stuff. And,
Absolutely.
and yeah, it makes a huge difference.
It does. And one of the reasons that I continue to support the church as best I can is I want this to be here for my children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unless we do some estate planning, that's in jeopardy.
Well, yeah, I think at each church, I think I've told you this before. I mean, I came from a very large church, the 8th largest Episcopal church in the country. It sent me to seminary. They have about a $22 million a year budget.
Yeah.
But most of that money comes from endowments, comes from people doing estate planning who gave of their life earnings so that other people could benefit from that for their children and their children's
Yes.
children. And it's a wonderful gift. Debbie didn't have any children. I remember
No,
she was like,
she did not.
she goes, "You guys are my children." I remember she used to say that in the kitchen. You all are my children, and I expect you, because she always said to me just like that, I expect you, Father Mike, to keep this place running and do what needs to be done. And
Yes.
it's just because it meant so much to her in her life. So yes, I think estate planning is one of those things too that's not that hard. If you have life insurance, look at your life insurance. See what your beneficiaries are. If it's possible, you can give the church 10% of a life insurance policy. Easy change,
Yeah.
change it to that, do that. If you don't have a will, let me encourage you to get a will. That way you could do estate planning. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you own anything, we got to figure out how to divide those assets up. And you want people to know exactly what your wishes are. Of course, we need people to pledge. Amen. We need people to pledge.
Yes, we do.
But it also is estate planning is another way of thinking about the church and thinking about the future and thinking about what impact we can make on others that come after us by what we do.
Yeah, often I know people my age start thinking about, did I make a difference,
Yes.
through my life?
Yes.
What did I accomplish? I have children. Some people look at the amount of money, that they accumulated, things that they accumulated. But this is one way, in your will, to make a difference for the future.
Yes.
After you leave this earth, to give 10%, if that's what you decide. I know with Debbie Marsteller, she wouldn't mind me telling you this. She asked me to help her with being the executor of her estate. And we sat down with the attorney, and he's going over all these percentages. And she said, I have 10% for the church. What do you think? I said, Debbie, it's your money. And she said, well, what do you think? And I said, you know the needs of the church. You know the wonderful outreach program, that we have, and the number of people that we're helping,
Yeah.
All right, change that to 20%.
Thank God.
That 20%, was a significant amount of money.
Oh, yes, it was. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's our responsibility to communicate this information to everyone.
I agree. Yeah, everyone.
And the church needs to provide this information and to assist wherever they can. And we're here
Yes.
to help anyone who would like information about that.
And we're going to have some brochures that the Church Foundation has developed for estate planning, that we'll have those available to people, and I know I am available and Dale's available at any time to talk about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about with that has helped the church out tremendously is the selling of stock to defer taxes. A lot of people that are retired have 401ks or different investments where they have to take the required minimum distribution, right, the RMDs, and the federal government has allowed them to take percentages of that tax-free. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
And we have a clearinghouse that allows people to sell stock and do those kind of things through the church foundation, which helps out the church. You want to touch on that for a minute?
Yeah. If you are taking minimum distributions from your retirement funds, okay, you can transfer that money directly to the church and not pay income tax.
Not pay income tax, yeah. And so
many people for years have been giving graciously, several $1,000s a year, okay, and then they pay taxes on top of it.
Right, yeah, this is the way you don't have to do that. Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to do that. And the church foundation has just evolved, okay, over the last 4 or 5 years. They're a wonderful institution. They're safe. There's all kinds of checks and balances, okay, and they are giving us for the first time, okay, the ability to be completely confident in an investment firm that is monitored by the church and accounting firms, okay, and producing what we receive 4.5% currently a year, but it's growing behind that for an additional 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
So our principal is growing every year,
despite the money that we've been getting quarterly. Yeah, I think that is an important part. I don't think people realized that some of the money that we had in investments, but it was more almost like a savings account. That now we have put that money to work, where the principal is growing as well as income that's coming in, and I think that helps tremendously. Last thing I think that I really wanted to talk about estate planning had to do with medical directives and the medical will. It's huge. In the state of Pennsylvania, they've got some very, I don't want to say restrictive, but they're very specific. I think that's the word I want to use. Ideas about what a living will is, right? On our pamphlets that we have from the Church Foundation, which we'll have available to people, it lays it out exactly how the state of Pennsylvania looks at creating a living will. People need to know what your wishes are, with the living will. As a priest, it is a tough thing to walk into a hospital room or to walk into somebody's house when you don't know exactly what their wishes are for medical. It's it's an emotional time. It's very tough to make decisions. If you have it spelled out, it relieves the family because they know that's what mom, dad, brother, sister, whatever it is, wanted, right? And there's no gray area. Doctors know how to react. Everybody knows how to react. And it saves us a lot, right? And the last thing I want to talk about that's kind of planning, because it kind of goes hand in hand, we never think about this, is funeral planning, right? As we speak, our sister Jane Varian has just died, and we're getting ready to plan her funeral, right? Knowing what Jane wanted in her funeral is an important thing to not only celebrate her life. I mean, look at the millions of things Jane did around here. We haven't seen her in about, 3-4 years?
3 years,
yeah, because she'd been sick. But, I mean, she taught Sunday school, she sung in the choir, she did all these things for St. James that were wonderful, wonderful things. And knowing what her wishes are for her service means a whole lot. And I was talking to her son, Mark Varian, who's in Texas, and he said, knowing what mom wanted is a relief to me.
Absolutely.
It's a relief, and we do that here. We have forms here, the Christian burial. You fill it out. We put it all in a folder so that when the inevitable happens, whenever that is, hopefully it's a long, long time from now, but when the inevitable happens, we can pull it out, plan your funeral, and and it's just, it's a blessing to the family to know what the loved one wanted, for that occasion. And I think that's part of estate planning. It's part of planning for the inevitable. None of us like to talk about death, right? But the truth of the matter, we're all going to die. It's going to happen, It's and how we plan for it, and I like what you said, Dale, about did I make a difference and plan it for the future? Can I make sure that St. James is going to be around for the next generation and the next generation?
We've been here for over 300 years, but it's only because, okay?
I'm not going to be here that much longer. No, I'm just teasing. No, but it is because of other people who have come before us.
Yes.
And done the work, had visions.
Yeah.
Had visions for what we're going to do. I mean, I hope 50 years from now, whoever the priest has said, they're going to look back and say, thank God for those people who had a vision for the outreach house.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To feed the hungry and clothe the naked. Thank God that they did the work to fix this building so it's still viable and usable. Too many churches, I think you'll agree with me, too many churches we go to and look at or need our help, the building's falling down around their ears and it becomes an albatross around their neck. We don't want that. We want this church to be viable. We want it to be a center where God changes people's lives. We're a center where people can do the ministry of Christ in the world, and do this to know and serve God by serving others. Amen?
Amen.
That's what we need. And one of the ways we can ensure that is to do some proper estate planning and do some proper planning in the future. Well, I hope this has been informative.
Yeah.
I've had fun.
So have I.
Yeah. If you guys got any questions, don't hesitate.
Give us a call.
Don't hesitate to ask us. Amen.